What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be discussing another episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly, and this will be the final episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly to discuss. At the end of the day, we are heading towards a very big game, our first play-in tournament game against the Toronto Raptors, and that doesn't necessarily require another Bulls Weekly, does it? It's either we win that game and we move over into, obviously, the next round of the play-in tournament, or we lose this game, we get eliminated from any sort of playoff contention, and our season comes to an end. There's only one of two ways that this can go. So all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will look at the previous results for the Chicago Bulls, give the final awards for the week, and then obviously we turn our heads into a very big game against that Toronto Raptors side. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and whether or not you believe we can get the job done in the play-in tournament, as well as how big of an end to a season was this for the Chicago Bulls. A lot of the end of the season didn't mean much for the Bulls because we secured our spot very early in the week. But with all that being said, how does the end of the season fare for the Chicago Bulls? So, we had 5 games to look forward to in this, week. A little bit of an extended week, I would say, because the game against Detroit happened towards the end of that week as well, or the beginning of the week for me. We ended up going 3-2, so again, another positive week. I think a lot of people would take that every day of the week. But again, a lot of people probably didn't really care too much about the end of the season. In fact, I think people were enjoying the fact that our season was coming to an end, and now we've got to focus on what this play-in game can do for the Bulls. Will we be able to qualify? Will we be able to fall out of the play-in tournament? When will our season end? When can we start really putting our attention towards the off-season and stuff of that nature? So that's where a lot of people's minds are at the moment. But of course, looking at this previous week, we'll discuss the first game, and it was a big one for the Chicago Bulls. It was against the Memphis Grizzlies, and it felt like this game was a lot longer than it actually was. But we ended up winning this game 128 to 107. I believe we were 21 points down or 23 points down, and we ended up winning the game by 21 points. So again, I get that is a game I think Bulls fans will always remember, how we were able to turn that game around, and not only did we win the game, we won it in extremely convincing fashion. Altogether, that game against Memphis, it was a very, very good game. Very, very happy with that result, and I think that result meant a lot towards the Chicago Bulls, because if you look at the whole grand scheme of things, at that time we didn't know where our playoff or play-in tournament position would be, and Memphis were the second best team in the Western Conference. That is no joke of a game, and we ended up securing a massive win in that department. Then we turn our heads into the next game against the Atlanta Hawks, and we lost this game 123 to 105. Put it straight up, without Trae Young, without DeJounte Hunter as well. They just wanted it more than us. Simple as that. It just felt like they came in from minute 1 to minute 48 and they had the control of the game, and it looked like the Bulls never really had a shot, in my opinion. That was one of the more frustrating games of our season because that was a direct rival. Again, a win in that game against Atlanta maybe could have shifted some things in the Eastern Conference. Maybe we could have finished in the 9th seed if we beat that Atlanta Hawks team, or if we beat the team after that in Milwaukee and stuff like that. Things could have changed for the Bulls. But of course, beggars can't be choosers now. We've got that opportunity, whether it's on our side or not on our side. That's something we're going to have to take at the end of the day. But a bad loss against the Atlanta Hawks, and a fairly bad loss against the Milwaukee Bucks as well. We lost this game 105 to 92. You look at this game and you say, look, it's Milwaukee. Why is that a bad loss? Well, it's a bad loss because there was no Giannis Antetokounmpo, and there was definitely no Chris Middleton in that game either. So it was basically Drew Holiday, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, and a lot of their other role players that tend to do fairly well for the Chicago Bulls. And it was bad because we were close to competitive with them for most of that game. Then they flip the switch, like what good teams do, like what potential championship teams do. They flip the switch, they turn it up, and the Bulls don't respond to that because we don't have that extra gear that we tend to go to on a regular basis. I'm not saying we never have the gear to beat teams like Milwaukee. We've done it before, but we don't go there enough. And teams like Milwaukee tend to go there every game. Even if they do lose, they take that extra step. They go above and beyond sometimes. And the Bulls didn't do that in this game, and that was a fairly embarrassing performance, I would say, for the Chicago Bulls. 2 very bad losses on back-to-back nights. That could be an excuse for why we didn't perform well against Milwaukee, but again, it is what it is. It's two losses at the end of the day. In the whole grand scheme of things, didn't mean too much, but could have meant a little bit more if we had won those 2 games. Then obviously, I think by this point we made the play-in tournament. We were the 10th seed. We remained in the 10th seed. And then obviously our next game was against the Dallas Mavericks. One of the more exciting games of the season for the Bulls. And we won this game 115 to 112. And the reason why I say this is an extremely important and big game for the Chicago Bulls is because the young guys got a chance to run out, be the core part of the team, and I thought they delivered. And we won this game from a comeback fashion. Sure, we were down by 15 points for some of this game. Luka, when he was actually playing, was dominating the Chicago Bulls. But for whatever reason, Dallas decided to go in a different direction. I don't know why they would try to avoid the play-in. It's not like they're going to have a fantastic pick unless they get really, really lucky. Their odds are not great. But at the end of the day, they decided to do what they did. Don't know. There's an investigation going around Dallas. We'll see what ends up happening. But the Bulls obviously took advantage of that. 15-point comeback. Kobe White, fantastic game in this timeout. Ayo Dosunmu with a great second half. Patrick Williams came in with a 23-point and 8-rebound night. It was just fun to see the young guys get that opportunity to be the vocal points in the team. And you still see games like this as the reason why they have so much potential and why you shouldn't give up on the player development side of things just yet. And I thought all of them really showed something in that game. Now, of course, you need to see it more than one game. And I think for certain guys you have. For guys like Kobe White, you've seen that potential in more than one game. But this game is the personification of that potential. And it's something that I hope we can continue to see in the future. With hopefully just allowing them to be the type of players that they need to be great players in this team. Again, no one's asking for Kobe White to get 24 points and 11 assists every single night. That's what max contract players do. That's what superstar level players do. Kobe White is our 6th man at this point in time. Maybe he has the room to be a starter. Maybe he'll continue to be our 6th man. Maybe he won't even be on the team next year. But at the end of the day, you need to let these guys have confidence, feel like whatever they're doing is impactful towards the team. And you have to make sure that they come in knowing that their contribution means so much towards the team, and obviously that will boost the confidence. It's just basically a good working environment in simple terms. You just want a great working environment. You want to be confident, you want to be happy, you want to be satisfied coming into work every single game, and that will obviously help the performances. And for guys like Kobe White, I think you clearly see how much fun he truly is having on the court recently. So again, potential. Got to live up to that potential. We'll wait and see what ends up happening in the future. The last game was against the Detroit Pistons. We won this game 103 to 81. Look, I still don't remember much about that game, I'll be honest. I haven't watched it back. I have no intentions of watching it back. That game was at 3 a.m. in the morning. I definitely watched it. I'll say that to you. I watched the game, but look, it was just such a boring game, stagnant game, low-scoring game. I only remembered really the big highlights in the game. The alley-oop to Zach LaVine. When Marco entered the game, it's just like things... I couldn't believe it. It was like something I had never seen before, even though he has played the season, very little minutes. But again, it was great to see that. But yeah, other than that, just a very standard, okay, just no one's really trying. Detroit didn't want to win this game. The Bulls, well, they were going to win this game regardless, let's be honest. It was close. It wasn't like it was a game that was completely out of stretch for Detroit, but... yeah, there was just no real reason to watch this game or tune into this game, to be honest. But, of course, I did, and that's probably why I don't remember much of that game. And that's it for Chicago Bulls Weekly in terms of the games and the results. Let's look into the awards. And again, the final award show of the season. I'm going to go a little bit above and beyond this time out, because a lot of people might look at this and say, I could be wrong, but I'm going to give a lot of shout out to some of our younger players in this timeout. So, yeah, let's look. We obviously give the must improve of the week, the defensive player of the week, the 6th man of the week, and the player of the week for the Chicago Bulls. And again, there is a lot to get through in this instance. I'm going to start off with the must improve. I don't know if people are on the same wavelength as me, but I'm going to pick Ayo Dosunmu as the must improve. Now, again, he had a great game against Dallas. He has, for the most part, been, I think, inconsistently sure, but he has been stepping up a lot in the transition game for the Chicago Bulls, and he needs to show his great strengths towards this team, because I think if there's any chance of him being aggressive, we have much better chances to win this game. If he can bring that transition game to the Toronto Raptors, again, I think that gives us a massive chance to win. I think Io is very key in games in the play-in tournament and how he approaches the game. If he's going to come out and drop zeros across the board, then I don't think we're going to have a great chance to win, because that's one of our key players that does play a lot of minutes for the Chicago Bulls not contributing. I saw that a couple of times this week, but again, I also saw some good performances this week. But that wavelength, that's kind of where my direction is going in for the must improve. Keep in mind, the last two games didn't necessarily mean a whole lot for the Chicago Bulls in the whole grand scheme of things. But yeah, that's what I'm going to say in relation to the must improve category. When you look at the let's go for the defensive player of the week. This is a bit of an interesting one, because again, a couple of guys missed the week. Of course, Zach LaVine, DeMar missed games. Patrick Beverley missed a game. Caruso, I believe, missed a game. You turn to other guys on this team like, a Kobe White. You could obviously put him in this conversation. Vucevic obviously played all 82. I'm going to lean towards Patrick Williams in this time out. Of course, the key part is he played all of the games. So that is very, very big. And the guy seems to just be very, very good on the help defense side of things now. I think his help defense has improved dramatically for the Chicago Bulls. There are still areas of improvement. He's not been perfect. He's still a young player. It's naive to see him become a defensive player of the year candidate in year 3, with obviously being out for a whole year last year and then the COVID year the year before. But again, there are so many games when I look at Patrick Williams and I look at the stats, and the guy has 2 or 3 blocks in those games. Now, I still think he needs to improve his rebounding. That's obviously a huge element of his game that I don't think he has down quite yet, and he needs to focus a little bit more on that. But other than that, again, I thought he was very, very solid defensively this week. And of course, playing all the games is a key part in my opinion. You move into the sixth man of the week. I'm going to give that to Kobe White. Again, I think the actions there really reflect that, but other guys like Derrick Jones Jr. potentially could be in this conversation as well. There was a game where Kobe White started this week, so again, you could maybe look at other guys that had all of their bench appearances, and that makes a lot of sense as well. But yeah, I do believe in the whole grand scheme of things, it would be Kobe White. And my player of the week, I'm actually going to give it to Kobe White again. I think Kobe White deserves the player of the week. Look, it's the final week of the season. It's not going to mean a whole lot, if you in the whole grand scheme of things. But Kobe White's had a fantastic week. I can't really say anything else other than that. He was truly phenomenal. You look at Zach LaVine and DeMar. Of course, they had great weeks. Vucevic is also definitely in contention for this as well. But they did miss a couple of games. I think all of them were bad against the Bucks as well. So yeah, why not give it to Kobe White? I mean, when you get a 24-11 night, as a guy that's considered a sixth man coming into this team and playing and starting a game and doing that, yeah, you know what? Call me biased, call me whatever you like. It's the last Bulls Weekly of the season. I couldn't care less if people think I'm biased at this point. But I'm going to give it to Kobe White. I've been so proud of his performances recently, and I think this is the icing on the cake for him. At the end of the season, the regular season, whether he stays on this Bulls team or not in the offseason, we'll have to wait and see. But he is my player of the week, and I don't think there's any other question about it. And that's it. Bulls Weekly comes to an end. The next game against Toronto. Look, I've specified all I need to say about Toronto. At this point, the time for talking is over, really. Of course, I'll still be making Bulls videos until that point. Of course, I will. But at the end of the day, I've said all I've needed to say. I've given you my prediction. I've given you my percentage of what I think the Bulls have a chance to win compared to the Raptors. And I've said my worries. I've said my positives. I've said my worries. I said what I think the Bulls need to do. Maybe I'll sum it all up in one video just towards the end, and what I think the Bulls are going to need to do to win that game and stuff like that. But again, now it's just waiting until that game happens, finally seeing what can be done and whether or not the Bulls season will continue or not. It's a bit of a weird place to be because a lot of people now, they're on autopilot mode. For example, teams like the Pistons or teams like the teams that didn't make the play-in tournament or didn't make the playoffs, their season is over. And I've experienced the Bulls in the playoffs since the YouTube channel has started. I've experienced the Bulls out of the playoffs when this YouTube channel started as well. So I've experienced both of those sides. I've never experienced this, a one and done game to see if your season continues. So there's a lot of pressure. It might feel like a game 7 by the time it comes. It might feel like it is do or die, and that's because it is do or die. So we'll see how I feel towards that game. Right now, I'm kind of just again, in the wait and see. But of course, as the game comes closer and closer, I think my excitement levels will begin to rise. And obviously the stress as well will begin to rise as well. So we'll wait and see what ends up happening. But until that moment, thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. 20 odd, close to 30 episodes of Chicago Bulls Weekly, man. Another season close to being wrapped up. I think this is the 4th season, if I'm not mistaken, I've covered. I've covered the year that Jim Boylan got fired, and then that Billy Donovan. Maybe this is the 3rd season, actually. I'm not too sure. I've done other seasons, but definitely not, I guess, every single day like this one and the last couple or so. It is what it is. I've lost count, but it's a long time, put it that way. Anyway, I'll see you in the next Chicago Bulls video. Have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.